Good morning and welcome back. It is now a Monday, May the 8th. It is a bright sunny morning out here, but you can see we do have some clouds forming out there to the west at the moment, so there is a possibility of thunderstorms at some point. And we certainly need the moisture. The rain forecast here for the weekend basically turned out to be almost nothing. We basically got about a millimeter maybe. It was just enough to wet the dust Saturday morning, so we desperately need some rain to get some more canola acres seeded at the moment. Well, I had a little bit of time in the workshop to get a few things done on the weekend, so I made up myself some new seed row tools. So you see me use that little finishing pry bar quite a bit. This is just a more refined version of that. One of these, the blue one, is in stainless steel. The orange is in carbon steel. They have Ultrex handles, which is a mixture of G10 with layers of rubber in it. Gives you a little bit of color, make it easier to find in the field, as well as be a lot more comfortable. Of course, the way that you use this is just to gently scrape away. This is in canola, so we have to go slowly and be careful. See if we can find some seed here. I find this is a lot faster than using one of those seed picks. There we go. There's one seed right there in the edge. There's the fertilizer kernels. So we should be close. Yeah, there's another canola seed right there. So we're just barely into the moisture layer here in this field. You can see I'm slowly exposing the fertilizer row there. There's some more seed right there. So I really like these tools. Find them a heck of a lot better than a seed pick. Well, a lot of the crop that's been seeded in the last week or two is really starting to emerge now. You can see in this field we got lots and lots of barley starting to come out of the ground and looking pretty good. So this is the best time of the year to really start scouting for both cutworms as well as wireworms. Wireworms are a little harder to scout for visually. In barley, you're going to basically be looking for a white or yellow colored plant that is heavily stressed and start searching to see if there is a wireworm in the seed row. For cutworms, you're going to be looking for plants that are cut off at the top, and you can see right here we have exactly cutworm symptoms. Zoom in on this guy a little bit better here. So you can see these have been cut off. So we're just going to check around those plants, see if we can find any sign of cutworms here. If we're lucky, we'll find one curled up in a ball right around it. They're usually pretty shallow, so just go slow and gentle. You can see we got some dry seed there that never germinated. Okay, don't find anything right there. Should be relatively close if he is here. Cutworms are pretty lazy. They don't typically go super deep. Alright, well in this case I think he has moved on somewhere. I haven't seen him, but we'll keep looking else. Oh, right there. There he is. Okay. There we go, right there. So that is difficult to say exactly what type of cutworm that one is. He's probably glassy, would be my guess. So these guys, their life cycle, you know, does start as an overwintered larvae, so there's already a pretty good size. Now you can see he's pretty well docile, so he's probably fed on quite a bit of that cruiser that these seeds were treated with, and now he's taken up that dosage and he's basically gone to sleep. Now the thresholds for cutworm kind of vary a little bit depending on the species, but for the most part it's usually about 3 cutworms per meter of seed row. So if you're seeing heavy damage, it might be worth a control measure such as spraying, but it's not super common to see so, and it usually does occur in patches. You're generally not having to spray an entire field for them, although that can happen occasionally. Moisture is definitely starting to become a problem in some of these fields. You can see this barley was seeded about a week ago, about 1 inch deep, and you can see it's just sitting there dry, has not germinated yet. In other areas of the field where it did get in a little bit deeper or moisture was better, then it's coming through already. Well, after last night's thunderstorms, it looks like we got just over a ½ inch of rain here, so definitely most substantial rain we've had all season, and should get our crops off to a great start. This field just got seeded to corn yesterday, which was great timing considering we got the rain right after seeding. So let's take a look, see what we got for seeding depth here. It's a little bit wet, but should be able to get down there no problem with my seed rake here. Hopefully I managed to hit one, which it doesn't look like I have. Seeding depth for corn should usually be around 2 inches deep. Now you want to go that deep because if you don't, your supporting roots that come off the crown for stability later on will be too high up and they will not work properly, they will not stabilize. So you really do need to watch your depth with corn. There is absolutely zero benefit to going shallow. And most of the time when we do see a failure in corn, it is because the seed was too shallow. So right here you could just kind of see we got one right there. So if I check my depth on that, I'm about 1.5 inches, I'd say. So a little bit shallow, but still in the zone. Anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5 inches, you should be pretty good. Even with a precision planter, your accuracy is never going to be 100%. You'll never get all of them in at exactly 2 inches. Here's a weed that's a good example of why you need to use decent water rates and get a good coverage when you're using products like AIM. This weed was sprayed about 4 days ago with 3/4 liter of glyphosate and 30 mils of AIM. And you can distinctly see the spots in the leaves that were hit by the AIM. You can see that it's kind of burned out. But overall, it was not a good enough coverage on this weed to kill it with just the AIM alone. Now, because that was only 4 days ago, we're not really seeing any effect from the glyphosate yet, really, other than maybe a little bit of yellowing and cupping here right at the center. But other than that, it's still looking healthy for the moment, but we'll probably get sick and die in the next few days. Just half a mile south of where I was playing in the mud here at this field, there was absolutely no rain at all. Basically, just a tiny little shadow of moisture in this gauge. So that is the nature of thunderstorms. Unfortunately, some fields have gotten absolutely nothing. Now that the peas are starting to emerge, it's a good time to start scouting for pea leaf weevil. I haven't seen any symptoms of anything yet, but you can see these little guys are out, and the first nodes really are just unfolding. We've got the scale leaf down at the bottom. First node is not quite yet unfolded, but it is getting there, so these guys are still pretty small. It's also a good time to roll them at this stage. And basically what we're going to be looking for pea leaf weevil, we're going to be looking for that stereotypical notching of the leaves where it's going to look like somebody used a hole punch to cut a chunk out of the leaf. We've been pretty fortunate in this area the last few years. There's been very little observable damage, and most people do treat their seed because we have had bad problems in the past. So, just keep an eye out for those, although really there's not much you can do about it if you do see them. If they are feeding on the leaves, it's really not worth spraying to kill the adults because by that point they've probably already laid their eggs. It's not the adults that really cause the damage, it's the larvae. They go underground and they feed down below on the nodules as they form on the roots, and that is where the yield loss occurs from. And when you are scouting for pea leaf weevil, it's usually good to focus on the outside of the field because they will typically move in from areas where they overwinter. In this case, we have some rangeland pasture right here, and over there we have an old hay field about 100 yards away. So this is a good spot for checking, and I'm not seeing any pressure at all. Now these guys are really small, but there is a hatch of grasshoppers happening up here by Carmen Gay. If you can see that little guy right off the tip of my finger right there. Oh, he's jumping. But there is some of these little guys are emerging. So keep an eye out for these. They're still really small, but they'll get big quick in this warm weather. Of course, right now, the risk with grasshoppers emerging at this stage is a lot of us are still seeding. A lot of the barley and the wheat is only just emerging. So these small little nymph grasshoppers, as they emerge, are absolutely ravenous, and they feed pretty much non-stop for the first few instars. So all these small crops that are just starting to come up are really at risk of heavy feeding if there's a really thick hatch and a thick concentration of eggs. So it kind of remains to be seen what's going to happen. Most of the time it's not a super serious issue. Right now I'm only just finding isolated pockets, but it can occasionally be a widespread problem. You can see in a field like this, obviously, this wheat is only just barely emerging here. It's still pretty small. So, those small little nymph grasshoppers would be able to do a real number on this and keep chewing it down. Well, I haven't seen much sign of flea beetles yet this spring until just now. Right here on this little weed, there is quite a few little flea beetles. These are all just the standard cruciferous guys. I don't see any striped ones in there. I'm not even 100% sure what this weed was. They've desiccated it pretty good. I think it was a variety of goosefoot. Looks like, this stuff here, which was spear-leafed goosefoot, but this one, for some reason, they decided to feed on. So, interesting to see. I've seen very little feeding pressure so far on volunteer canola, but as always, I'm going to continue watching. Starting to see some of my first seeded canola emerging down here south of Lethbridge. Not a whole lot yet. It was pretty dry down here, so emergence is a little spotty at the moment. But now that we've gotten some rain down here, I think there was like 2/10 here last night. So maybe now after that we'll see some better emergence in the next week. Down here by Lethbridge, the canals are pretty much filled and flowing, which is nice to see. Around Nobleford and area, there's still severe water restrictions and no irrigation to the west of Kehoe. However, downstream of Kehoe, the irrigation district is letting out a limited amount of water. They will allow you to use 1 inch of water. However, that counts towards 3 inches of your total water allotment for the year. So kind of an interesting situation. Hopefully these thunderstorms we've been getting the last few days kind of help ease the pressure off of that. I'm starting to notice a little bit more flea beetle damage here and there. I don't see any active flea beetles jumping around here at the moment, but it's relatively cool and wet. But you can see some of these leaves have been chewed on pretty good. This is volunteer canola on stubble from last year. So definitely, I mean, nowhere near threshold level feeding even on this volunteer, but it is here, which means that they are active. So definitely something to keep an eye on as canola acres continue to get planted and some start to emerge. Just had a chance find pulling up some winter wheat, and you can see right here at the end of my thumb is a big patch of grasshopper eggs. So that was kind of a fluke, pulling that up and having them all still kind of somewhat attached and together. So this is down here by McGrath. These ones definitely have not hatched yet, but I think with the current temperatures, it'll only be a matter of time. And of course, the best method of controlling grasshoppers is the natural one. And cold, rainy, wet weather at the time of grasshoppers emerging is going to be the best way to control them. So hopefully that happens, but you never know. Other than that, the winter wheat this week is looking great. Wherever we've gotten some rain showers and stuff, it has really perked up and it's just growing like crazy. Well, after testing these 2 seed scrapers this week, overall I'm pretty happy with them. They are a pretty fast way even to find canola seed here. You can see this seed was just under the ground here, so relatively shallow. We've got nice moist soil, so that is not an issue at all. There was one there just a little bit deeper. So overall, super happy with these. A little bit late in the year to be going into production of them, but whatever. I think we'll be doing a Twitter giveaway for this one, so the post might be live by the time this video comes out, but we'll probably do a photo competition or something like that. So make sure you follow me and AgroPlus 5 on Twitter, and you'll hopefully see something there. And that'll be it for this week. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.